Hello, all. I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, host of Your Strategist is In, and I am here today again with Dr. Cedric Williams. And you all may remember Dr. Williams was on, I think in season 4 or 5. It's been a while since we were last together, and a lot of things have changed since that time. And as we're here in season 6, we are bringing on people who we felt were really great guests, and you all as the audience appreciated and learned a lot from them. So I'm so glad to welcome you back, Dr. Williams.
Dr. Hill, thank you so much for having me. It's always a privilege to be able to have a conversation with you, to be able to talk about everything from leadership to strategy to consulting work. So this is great. I appreciate you having me. I feel very honored. Thank you.
You are most welcome, sincerely. And so I just want to say, for those of you who may not be viewing this, maybe you're listening, I'm a little bit distracted because Dr. Williams is out there in the middle of somewhere, and he has started his day by planting trees on his property. So he's in his cabin now, and there's some trees outside the back window, which I think are just lovely. And I know that they are now being rehomed in a great place. So tell us a bit about, why you feel like you needed to put some extra trees on this property.
Extra trees on the property. Yeah, there's quite a bit of timber here. We are kind of secluded in about 50 acres of timber in central Illinois. These trees, purchased 7 juniper trees today, so they're going to be kind of like a wall of kind of an edge on our property. There's like a hill that's close to our home, and so I'm planting some of those trees out there. We try to have a good mixture of trees or what are on the property and everything else. So over the last 3.5 years, we've learned quite a bit about trees and about tending to the trees that are on our property. This is our retreat center. And so we're really excited about this place. It's come together over the last 3.5 years, but it's been a dream that my wife and I have had for about, I would say, the last probably 15 years or so. We've kind of thought of going to grad school and then eventually getting to a place where we had a property where people could come and have opportunities to be able to just to heal, to be still, to reconnect with nature, have an opportunity to have conversations and connections with others.
So I think this is so amazing. One, the reason that one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the trees is because, as you and my listeners know, I'm always talking about the changing landscapes, right? How our environments are constantly changing, whether we see it or not, right? So sometimes there's these seismic shifts, and then there's sometimes these subtle shifts. And so as you and your wife had this dream of this retreat center, what we do know is that 50 acres was already there doing its own thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so then you all fast forward, now you are stewards of this property. And I heard you say that you've learned a lot over these past 3 years since you've sort of occupied this space about the hills and needing some boundaries. And I'm wondering, if that can serve as sort of maybe either, depending on how you look at it, either a metaphor for leadership and learning how to survey your area, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be sort of shored up, what you need to bring in, what needs to be taken out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting as you bring that up. One of the things that we definitely have learned since we've been out here is that there's certain trees that you'll have to cut down You'll have to kind of prune the woods just like you would prune a small house plant or something like that. You have to do the same thing in the woods, especially in a larger area. One of the things that I found interesting that ties it into leadership is that when you cut certain pieces of wood and when you look at the rings inside of and on the tree, you can see that some rings are really small and some rings are really big around. And what that signifies is that some years were better than other years, right?
Yes, yes.
And some years you had less nutrients, the tree had less nutrients. And then other years it might have had more nutrients, right? And it varies throughout. And I think about that with leadership. I think about that with like life in general, of like, you might be in a season where you're getting a lot of nutrition in your occupational environment, and that's a beautiful thing. That's something that we can learn from, but there's also seasons where it feels like we're getting, we have drought, or we might get like, choked out, or there might be other trees there that we're not getting the proper sunlight, because
Mhm.
they're blocking that. And so I think that for me, that has been a metaphor that I think about often when I'm, out walking in the woods or we're taking care of the property. Um, it is it is interesting to see that every single tree it does have a story. And I think that that's a lot of leadership and a lot of people who are in the occupational environment, whether you're in higher education or you're in corporate landscape or nonprofit. There's a lot to be said about journeying and some years being better than others. And yeah, that's been something that we've definitely thought about a lot more in the last 3.5 years since we've had still timber retreats.
So as we think about, the lifespan of the tree,
Yeah.
right? What would you say would be needed to a sapling, right? A tree
Yeah.
that's very young. And, again, we're seeing ourselves in this.
Yeah.
So if you're young in this environment, and you hope to be something like a grand tree at some point, and you want to move maybe beyond surviving to thriving, what is a strategy that you could probably employ early on?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting strategies of certain trees inside of the woods are looking at, there are certain trees that have very sophisticated root systems. And so the root systems of those trees, some of the best trees will interconnect their roots with other trees. And so, even though outside of the surface, when you look at it, it's like, oh, well, that's an individual tree. But if you went a few, feet below, what you realize is that the best trees have the best roots, and those best roots are connected to other trees. So even if they're, we just had a tornado here, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. So even the best trees, that tornado, it's going to bend them, it's going to sway them, but it's not going to break them. And I think that that is very true of, every single metaphor that we see of like, um, of individuals too, like having a deep root system of the people that are around you that are buoying you up. And when it's time, it's a time of life where you're kind of being swayed, or that it's really just hard or storming, or upheaval, right? And I think that having a good root system is a metaphor that we can, as human beings, can use for, thinking about who are we connected to, and are those people who I'm connected to, do they also have strong roots, and do they have a desire to have strong roots, right? Because that's important. And I think that the the intersection of that is critical for us to be people who are mindful of who we are around, what we are absorbing, and what we are connecting ourselves to.
So this is great. I really had no idea we'd be talking about
Yeah, I didn't
landscaping
either.
in the
I don't know.
same
I could talk
space.
about trees all day though, so
I
be
could
careful.
too. This is so funny as I am mesmerized by nature and the environment. And I was thinking about something that happened here maybe probably 3 years ago in our area here in Los Angeles. We had major floods, like
Mm,
major floods.
mhm.
And in my backyard, I have an Italian pine that
Mm,
is probably 60 years old.
yeah.
There's what I used to call like the sister or brother or twin pine that was across the street.
Mhm.
And it was this huge, beautiful, right? And in this rainstorm, the tree fell over. My
Mm,
tree did not, because my landscape designer, when they came, the first thing they said is, this tree's roots are holding the hill together behind your house. But
yeah.
we don't want this to be the sole protector. We need to protect the protector.
Yep.
Adding different types of landscape in
Mhm.
is drought tolerant. There's just a bunch of different stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw that tree over there, I thought, wow, that tree was alone. There were no other trees, no other plants. It was just the tree on the side of the hill and, whatever low level grasses or whatever.
Yeah.
So during that storm, the tree toppled over because it had all of the rain coming down in its umbrella, and it had roots that were not supported by anything else.
That's
So
right.
I'm wondering about people who go at it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think, I mean, I'm sure that you've heard this famous African proverb that's kind of been popularized in media. If you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together.
Mm,
And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. Um, the individual person who's just on a pursuit, yeah, you usually can be pretty agile initially. But I think that if you do want to go somewhere for a long time and sustain, especially in the occupational environment, you have to find people that you can go with and to support you, and you can be supportive of them, right? So it's a reciprocity, right?
mm,
It's not a matter of just like, what can I get from these people so I can go further? It's we are going further together and actually mean it. And so I think that that's something that's a little bit different, right? Like, how can we do something? How can we partner in a way where it doesn't feel like you have to be alone? I think that living life with other people is the way that we are intended to be. And so being in community, having an opportunity to be communal with one another in some capacity, I think it's critical.
mm.
And I'm saying that as somebody who's more introverted, right? And so like I do spend a lot of time alone per se, but there's always a village and a root system that I'm connected to, that I still try to stay in contact with. Because I realize pretty early on, even in my work as a consulting psychologist and building my practice, that you know it's not as rewarding and it's not as meaningful to me if I just am doing it by myself. So having a team, not only of people who work with me, but a team of people who support, I think is critical for the journey.
I You bring up a very good point, or several, I should say,
Mhm.
in terms of community and support and not going at it alone, right? So there are living things in the environment that may be the only species of that, plant, tree, etc.
Yeah.
But they thrive when there's diversity.
Yes.
And so even, I too am someone who's more introverted.
Hmm.
People who are around me are like, what? You know, yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
It
it.
is work to be
Yeah,
around people, right? I can
for
do it,
sure.
but it is work.
Yeah.
And what I find is even in my solitude and solace of that, I, in my head, and thinking like, wow, that was really great that I was able to support this person, or
So,
that they
yeah.
were able to support me, and we have this shared experience, and we're not competing for the same thing. We're really enhancing each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that like what you said of like enhancing one another and not competing, but complementing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can I complement this person's skill set? How can I support them? And especially when it comes to like our work as consulting psychologists, like there's so many other people who are doing our work, our jobs as well, but there's so much need that's out there. And so how can we have a mindset of saying like, if Dr. Hill thrives, I thrive too,
Yes.
right? Like that, I mean, that if we can get there,
Mm-hmm.
like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's an unstoppable, force because we're all trying to help one another, down whatever road that we're taking. There's unique skill sets. There's certain people that you can reach that I can't reach, right? And some people that are going to be able to reach you that won't be able to reach me or do reach me, like so I think that there's just so much value of being the type of person who really does has that collaborative mindset. And that's something that I have to like really try to put on that hat and remind myself that it's important to do and to collaborate well with others. Because especially when, my growing up, it's like I did rely heavily on myself, right? And so I'm used to doing that, but at the same time, like I don't want to do that. I don't have to do that. That's not how I have to live life anymore. So if I can figure out a way to be able to be more collaborative as an individual and ultimately reciprocate that, I think that that's important.
So, something that you just brought up around sort of being self reliant, right?
Yeah,
Growing up being
yeah,
self reliant because sometimes you were the only one, right? Or maybe the resources were limited because the family was addressing so many needs, right? So, whatever that whatever that stemmed from and wherever that came from, one of the things that I tend to work with people on is like not erasing it, but recording over that. How
yeah,
it
yeah,
is healthier for you as an individual to not carry the load alone.
yes,
And it's better for helping others grow into, their strengths to be able to say, here, you take this one, right? If
yes,
we're developing, go back to the sapling, if we're helping that sapling grow deep roots and get its branches out there and get its own sunlight, we can't do it for it. It has to go through that process alone, and work within the environment to
like that.
find its place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, oh man, we're getting into all the pieces of my mind is thinking about trauma,
Mm. Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And I know that that's a whole nother
mm-hmm.
endeavor, but yeah, there's a reason why we do these things. There's a reason why we collaborate. There's a reason why we choose to kind of be lone wolves in a world. And yeah, I think that as you said, to record over it, it's like there has to be new narrative to have new growth and to go to different places than we've been before.
Right.
So it requires something of us to make that change, and that change is hard, right? Like, um,
Yes.
it is hard. It's not, that's not to make light of the process of of transforming. But I think for many of us who are in critical roles, whether it be in our institutions, our organizations, like the environment calls for us to be different. And what got us into those roles is not what keeps you there.
Exactly.
We have to morph. And I think a lot of times when we do morph and change, we do that in communion with others in some capacity. So you can't just kind of like, knuckle it up and then just get through it. I think that's where it requires other people, and some grit and some humility too, to say, I need some help along the way.
Right. And to realize, because you also touched on trauma, and we've talked
Mhm.
about that in the
Yeah.
podcast. And so trauma can happen in a lot of different ways, right? It can have, you could be real grown in the workplace and have trauma, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Be, you may have experienced it growing up, but wherever that trauma occurred leaves a scar. And so
Hmm.
thinking about how to tend to that wound that may have healed over in time, you know, how you treat that is not on your own, right? You can do some, but the best way to do it is to seek help. And there are safe places
Hmm.
where that can happen, like just talking to you, talking to your wife, talking to
Yeah.
me. Like there are resources out there for people to help you heal and go from surviving, white knuckling it, to loosening up and then moving steadily into a place of thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that now people are becoming a little bit more open to like talking with somebody and getting help, and working with a psychologist. I just think now it's critical. Like I think that it's a part of development and growth. Like, like you do not want to be an underdeveloped person that is choosing to not look at some of these things, right? Like we have to look at, face and go through some of the most challenging things in order to get us on the other side of whatever it may be that we're doing. Because
Mm-hmm.
if we keep on running into that wall, and that wall is something that is intrapersonal,
Mm-hmm.
right? We always think that it's, oh, well, this is an interpersonal issue, and it's usually we'll point blame to it's an interpersonal issue with somebody else, but some of those concerns that we have, whether it be in the occupational environment or personal, and with our people that are close to us, we got some intrapersonal things that we're also working through, and reaching out, talking to somebody, to me just feels like it's a necessity at this point for
So,
many people, not everybody, but for many people. Yeah.
everybody.
Everybody. Okay. So make a caveat, like, okay. Yeah.
If you are a person living on Earth right now, this applies to you. Thank
Yeah, yeah, I would assume
you.
so, but
Welcome.
I want to leave some room for, maybe the
No,
perfect
we're
people out
not doing
there.
that. No, whoever you are, you don't get an out.
Right,
You need help
right.
too. It's just the degree to which thou needs help.
There you go. There you
So
go.
I do want to make a maybe a bit of a distinction because you and I are psychologists,
Mhm.
and we've been dually trained, right?
Yeah,
So we have our clinical background, then we also have our coaching consulting background.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we just spent some time talking about trauma and the work you need to do on the inside. I'm writing a series of articles right now about the difference between, when to see a coach, when to see a psychologist or a
Yeah,
therapist, right?
yeah, yeah.
And how they may seem similar, but they're different. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about consulting and coaching work, I think about the role of being a guide of what is present and what is going to the future. right? Of what are we doing? What are we doing now? What are the strengths that you have? What are some limitations that you might have? But I think we focus in on the strengths, the present, and the future, right? And that's what we're looking at, building out those goals, making those very clear for our work together to focus in on that, whether it be as a leadership development consultant, as an executive coach. We're trying to move somewhere, right? And so we're spending a lot of time thinking about like what are the goals that we're moving to? What are the barriers? What are some of the options that we have? And what are the activating components and levers that we need to do in order to achieve that and move forward? And I think a good coach is being that guide and helping the person that you're working with to get to that point. So I think about coaching in that way, very future focused, strength focused. I think clinical work is more focused in on why do I do the things that I do, right? Why do I keep on coming back to these components or behaviors? And so I think that a lot of times we do have to look at the past in order to get some language to help us heal, that we can move forward with the rest of our lives. But I think that, for coaching work, it is present and future. Like what's going on now? How can we make the future different? And what options do we have to do that?
Yes, yes, very well stated. I don't have to add anything else to that.
Okay.
So I do. What I will say though
Hmm.
is it for our audience is that it is important to sort of check in, right? Whether you're whatever your entry point is. So whether you're entering through a clinical, so there's a therapist or psychologist, or you're entering through coaching or consulting, it's okay to ask the question,
Yeah.
do you think I could benefit from seeing a person in the other area? Because
Yeah.
I have found that when some of my clients have both, some of them have come in like, look, I got a therapist. I'm like, great, then we don't have to address, XYZ. Others, I'm like, maybe you should take a consult. Like, not that I'm saying anything's wrong, but it's okay to have a consult for this.
A- Absolutely. I would agree with you that it is helpful to be able to get that clarity of what is going to be best with the work, right? Because some people, coaching might a lot of different type of a flexibility that people are more open to.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes like the clinical work, um, people might not realize that's maybe their greatest barrier or issue
Mm-hmm.
they need to examine and go deeper in. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's important, as you mentioned, just to check in, like what is, and to do to do some sort of assessment, like what are the best next steps for me?
Mm-hmm. So as we think about assessments, right? You and I love
Yeah,
assessments.
we do like
Just
assessments
give
for
me a
sure.
good
Yeah,
assessment and
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just a
absolutely.
happy camper, right?
Yeah.
So as we think about, seeking help, whether that's in the coaching, whether it's in the clinical, whether it's, how to get this backhoe on the property to put some more
Hmm.
trees in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So what how do we start assessing where we are? We talked a bit about the sapling, but we didn't talk about mature trees. There's a lifeline, or
Hmm.
there's stages. So
Hmm.
how do you know wherever you are, whether you're early career, mid career, late career, how do you know when to seek out an assessment, or what am I even supposed to be doing it, or do I need to do anything?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the I think about the stages of life. So I think for people who are in the later stages of life, or who, I wouldn't say later stages of life, but later in their career, I would, one assessment or one question that you could ask yourself is that, how am I giving back, and am I giving back? How am
Mm-hmm.
I giving back to the next generation of whoever, whatever profession that I'm in? If I'm a professor, if I'm an engineer, if I'm a lawyer, I would be asking those questions. Am I giving something back to my community? And if I'm not, I would say, well, why? Is it lack of motivation? Is it lack of time? Is it lack of margin? All of those things, like that would be something that I would be very curious about. Like I'm at this stage of life, but I'm finding myself, I'm still absorbing, and then I'm not having an opportunity to be able to give anything to others. That to me, that would be strange. Or something to think about, right? For somebody who is in middle career, I would ask the question of, um, does this feel meaningful and purposeful? Right? Does my work feel meaningful and purposeful? Am I clear on what I'm doing? If you're in that stage, I think that it should be you should be fairly certain of like what you're doing, right? And where you're going. And if you're not, that would be something that I would say, well, maybe this is a time for me to pause and to reflect and, either work with somebody or to think about like, how can I think about like where I'm at on my journey, where I want to be at, and what is the gap or the barrier in order to get there. So I think that would be a question that I would ask. I would say for somebody who's an early career professional, a good assessment is, asking what is my trajectory? What are those mile markers, those 10, 20, 30-year mile markers? Am I doing everything that I need to do in order to hit those waypoints, right? Do I have the right people? Do I have the people to support us? Going all the way back to what we're talking about, the root system. What are my root systems looking like? Who am I partnering with? Is this the community that I want to partner with? Are they moving me towards my goal or away from my goals? Do I have clarity of my goals, right? Like those types of questions, I think are important for people to ask. And so every single life stage or work stage, I think that there's a question that we should be asking ourselves. And sometimes we can ask ourselves and we have the answers. And then sometimes we might have a big question mark. And I think when it comes to that question mark, that's when a coach, a consultant, somebody working with somebody in that way can be extremely helpful because it just clears the fog, right? Being able to say it out loud.
Yeah, so those are all great questions, like, just quick things to think about no matter where you are in your life stage of your career.
Mhm.
And sometimes, as we come back sort of full circle to where we started and thinking about the landscape and the environment, it's always good to survey the environment,
Yeah.
right? Just to see what's working, what's not working, sitting still, going, what's going on in here with me,
Yeah.
right?
Very much. Yep.
What's going on out there? And what does the out there mean, right? So it can be something as local as your organization. It can be something broader, like, state regulatory. It could be federal. I was coaching someone at a global company. I won't name it, but
Yeah.
some of the things that happened in terms of geopolitical
Yeah.
winds can blow you completely off course, right?
Mm.
So surveying your environment is something that you should be doing regularly because the environment is always changing.
Yeah. Environment's always changing. And, Loren, I think that we've talked about this before, is like, uh, am I becoming the type of person that I want to become in this environment?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Is this who I want to be? And that's a tough question to ask, and it's even a tough question to answer for some. It's like, is the way that I'm showing up in life, is this how I want to show up?
Mhm.
If I'm stressed, if I don't feel like I'm, having space to find any kind of like joy or enjoyment for that matter, um, I don't know if I want to show up to life like that, right? And so if I am showing up like that, then there's a lot of questions for us to ask, and that's a great time to reach out to people and try to figure out, it's like, what am I doing? What do I want to do? But ultimately, who do I want to be? Is this the
Point-
person I want to be?
Your point is so well taken. And what I also am, you and I are very sensitive to this because
Yeah,
we've had, discussions about this,
yeah.
how to pivot in an environment,
Hmm.
understanding that, you probably are real grown up with some grown up responsibilities. So the
Yeah,
pivot take strategy. And if you have been like many of us, with sort of your nose to the grindstone, just head down doing the work, showing up, doing the right thing, but have really found yourself going like, I don't, this isn't what I signed up for, or this isn't what they sold me. Right.
mhm.
So how do you put together a strategy where you can get get yourself out of that muck and mire, and it's generally not something you can do on your own.
Right. And I would say the first thing is to come with like the hard and tough reality is that you will be okay and they will be okay.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And so like the we will be okay part, we might think that we will be, or we're not sure. Yeah, you'll be okay. Um, the second part is they will be okay. It's like we have convinced ourselves that, like, oh, I'm needed. I'm needed, and this is it. If they need me, like whatever institution, most of the time, like they're gonna be able to continue doing the things, right? Like whatever is it is. I think that getting the people around you in those moments that are trusted, that are supportive, that are going to give you like meaningful and impactful guidance, not just what you want to hear. I think that that's important. So, having people around who are truth tellers and who know you at some level, who can get to know you, I think it's critical. Like, having voices, a diverse, vibrant variety of voices to be able to guide a person, I think is critical. Um,
And I will say that, to your point about how we've sort of convinced ourselves that we're needed, the organization, if I'm not there, it's just going to
yeah,
collapse. Please know that that organization will survive
yeah,
with or without you. And
mm,
you are expendable, but you yourself need to have that same kind of mindset, if you will, that I am important. I need me, right? I
yeah.
need me more than they need me, and
Hmm.
I need to be here. And so when we think about, as we were talking about, just putting things together where they're supposed to be, the root system, the growth of the tree, the lifeline of the tree, the lifespan of the tree, the whole garden, the environment, everything has its place.
Yeah,
And you have your place, we have our place, and it's better with us here than with us not here.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's a powerful image of like reminding people that you have to yes, you can take care of others, but you also you can't just walk around um like a fraction of yourself. Like you're not helping anybody by doing,
Right.
it's like you've got to move forward and really think about like what you're moving towards, what you're becoming, and yeah, I think that that's essential for people to consider that. So I think that it's a point well received as well.
Well, I love that for us, right? We've been giving out these tidbits on
Yeah.
you know, 50-acre plots of land, which is just mind-boggling and amazing to me,
Mhm.
but very much a place where we can see ourselves in it, right? And so, as we bring our session today to a close, Cedric, I
Yeah.
would like for you to, kind of tie this up with a nice little piece of like gardening thread.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, a lot of our conversation today was let's say it's about leadership, but it's also about support. And it's about if all of us are individual trees in the woods, like there are certain ways that we can grow to be strong, to be mature, and to still feel connected. And I think that it starts with having a good rooted system. And for us as human beings, that's the people that are around us, the nest, our supporters, the people who are not just with us, but they are for us. And I think that it's critical to be able to connect to others in order to do that. And I also think that a lot of what we talked about today is thinking about assessing is like where you're at in your journey. Um, if you're like, later in your career, asking yourself if you're continuing to be generative, if your middle career, are you in alignment with what you started that you wanted to do? And if your early career, have you made a clear path in order to chart out? Do you have clarity of the steps and the waypoints that you need to take? So I would just encourage people to, find your people in order to guide you to do that, whether it be a coach, a consultant, because I think it's important to be able to partner with people who are willing to do that hard work with you.
Well, I thank you so much for being here today with us
Yeah.
and giving us your sage advice as always. And I know the last time we were here, I know we're just at time, but the last time we were here, you had just published, I think, another book. And so are there any publications you want to share with our audience? I'm going to put all of this in the show notes, but
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you busy working on your land so your book is on the
Yeah.
side?
Yeah, thank you. So I have one book that's already published. That was in 2023 called Brick by Brick,
Mhm.
Becoming a Clinical and Consulting Psychologist. My second book is going to be published in January of 2027. So it's like in press right now. It is called Follow Me, um, Why They Will and Why They Won't.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. And I look forward to getting my advanced copy.
Okay.
So,
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, it'll be coming your way hopefully in November. So yeah, follow me, Why They Will and Why They Won't.
so thank you, Dr. Cedric Williams, for being on with us again today. And
Thank you,
like
Doctor.
I said, we are so happy to have you back during this season 6. And we look forward to continuing conversations with you in the
Thank you.
future.
I appreciate it, Dr. Hill. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, and I look forward to having you all join us again sometime soon.